All right. Good evening, guys. Welcome to the first ever debut episode of Razorback Recap, Arlington edition. We're going to shoot to try to do this weekly with you guys to recap Arkansas baseball and softball weekend and any other big news that Arkansas has over the weekend until our regular episode comes out on Thursdays. And I mean, we'll just jump right in. There's a lot of exciting baseball and softball for Arkansas this weekend as, baseball made the trip to Arlington for the Kubota College Baseball Series. And then you had Arkansas softball in the Razorback Invitational here hosted at Bogle Park. And, a lot of big numbers put up this weekend for both baseball and softball and, big career performances in both sports. Plus basketball as well. We'll touch on that in a little bit, but we'll just jump in right here with Arkansas's first game versus number 7 Oregon State on Friday night. The storyline going into this game was just, a rematch from years ago.
2018.
Yeah, when we were so close to a national championship. It was one fly ball short, but we're not going to dwell on that. And Arkansas wins a close one here, 5-4, where the storyline for this game is Hagen Smith. This is we knew this. He had this in him, and that he was this type of pitcher. And that last week's outing against JMU was just a fluke, like we said on our show. I'm sure that's going to be his worst performance of the season, and he turns that right around with a career-defining, probably one of his best performances he's going to have all season. And he went 6 innings, totaled 78 pitches, had 3 hits, 1 walk, and 17 strikeouts. Out of those 78 pitches, 59 went for strikes. So, he was feeling it, locked in, and, got us through most of this game. And he tied the program record 4 strikeouts in this game, which was – so he's now tied with Jess Todd from 2007, who went 8 innings, 2 hits, 0 runs, 1 walk, 17 strikeouts on 118 pitches. So it took him a little bit more pitches to get to that mark, but that was against South Carolina back in 2007. So, talk about a career pitching outing for Hagen Smith.
Yeah, I expected him to bounce back. I wasn't expecting this high of a bounce, though, frankly. Everybody knew that he was a good pitcher, one of our best, probably our best, obviously kind of our ace. And didn't have a great outing against JMU. I think he did a fantastic job of not letting that get to him. Got coached up pretty well, came out, was prepared for this, amped up. And, dude, I'm not sure I've ever seen a college performance quite to that level. I mean, it was almost unreal the way he was carving up guys. It just felt like at some point, they were going to get a hold of something more than they did. But, I mean, he only gave it 3 hits, only the 1 walk, and then a 80+%, strike to ball ratio. I mean, it was just one of the best college performances I've ever seen. It would have been cool to see him maybe, get the record, but a lot of fans were upset that he got pulled when he did, just with a pitch count kind of thing. They're letting everybody go about 75 to 80 pitches right now. I'm not trying to push it too far this early in the season and risk any kind of injuries, while everybody's kind of getting game ready. Essentially, there's still some conditioning going on, in some of these games. So I don't blame them at all for not pushing it and trying to let him maybe go a full game or even a couple more innings to get the record. I'm just fine with what they had happen. I don't want to risk that injury, but his performance in this game was just it was otherworldly. I really don't even know how to describe it. If you weren't able to watch it, try to go back, watch some highlights. I know it was difficult to watch this series with it being on Flow Baseball, but I tell you what, I was not mad. I spent $30 to watch these games.
Yeah, that's true. And like, that's a good point. I know Dave said in the post game that, they kind of thought about wanting to let him go. He wanted to go more, but with him not getting the ramp up last week, only going 42 pitches, this week he made the point of we'd rather have him in June than let him go an extra inning here in February in an early season tournament. So I understand that aspect, but like you said, it would have been cool with the performance and, how locked in he was to let him go out and get that record. But, overall, not a bad outing for him. We'll jump into some guys that came in relief. You had Will McIntyre come in for 1 inning, not necessarily having his best game this week either. 22 pitches, allowing 2 hits, 2 runs, and had 2 strikeouts. Stone Hewlett came in for a third of an inning, 9 pitches. Like we talked about before, he's going to be one of those situation guys or chess pieces, if you will, where Dave's going to bring him in on a certain matchup, a lefty matchup, something like that. In this game, he had allowed one hit, one run, and got a strikeout. Gage Wood came in 1 inning, 16 pitches. He allowed 2 hits, 1 run, and 1 strikeout. And then Jake Faraday finished things up in the final 2/3 with 16 pitches, 2 hits, 1 run, and 1 strikeout. 10 pitches for 2 strikeouts. So, I myself was on the edge of my seat watching this game, closing it out with Jake Faraday. Dave said after the game, talking about how he brought him out, and he said, "Do you know why I brought you into this game right now in this situation?" He's like, "Because I know you can do it." He said, "So just get out there and do it." And that's big for a coach to believe in you like this. But we saw him have some similar struggles to what he did last year with control was his main issue last year. He's got the stuff, he's got the high fastball that can touch triple digits, but that control is where he struggled at some point last season and improved over the offseason per reports. We've seen that a little bit, but we'd like to see a little bit more control as we go throughout the rest of the season if he's going to be one of our key closers like clearly Dave wants him to be.
Yeah, I thought he did really well. To your point, I think there's some consistency that's going to come. I think he's made a tremendous leap, and you saw that. And just the fact that Hobbs and Van Horn trust him to come in and close a game, where Oregon State was, kind of trying to make a little bit of a crunch comeback there, was pretty incredible. He came in and slammed the door on a potential comeback. So I thought that was about all you could ask out of him, especially considering the, kind of the high leverage spot that he came in at with quite a bit of potential for nerves and things like that. So I thought he did a good job controlling all of that and coming out and getting a couple clutch strikeouts there. So overall, man, this was it literally felt like a regional type game this early in the season. You could tell there's a little bit of bad blood history there. These teams both wanted to win this, especially with it being, a top 10 matchup. I think there was a lot on the line here, and I was really impressed with our pitching, starting and our bullpen throughout the entire game. And then we had enough clutch hits to kind of squeak this one out. So it was a really, really fun game.
Yeah, we'll run down that real quick. So, Hagen's 17 strikeouts also broke the Globe Life Field single record since it's opened up in 2020. So no major league professionals have even hit that either. So, that's cool for him to hold that mark at Globe Life and then also tie that program record. As far as offensive, Arkansas they're still finding their footing, as we're still early in the season. Ben McLaughlin came in with a big clutch 3-run double in the bottom of the 5th with 2-out situation, and that was able to score 3 of our 5 runs here. You had Jason Jones get an RBI single in the bottom of the 6th to increase that lead to 4. So good to see him getting involved a little bit more. And then who else other than Peyton Holt coming in clutch with a 2-out triple to center that scored a Lloyd to put Arkansas up 5-4. We've seen that last year, those hero moments. He comes in with some electricity and some clutch situations. So overall, not a bad hitting game for Arkansas, but, it's like we talked a little bit, over the games during this weekend. I think Arkansas, something that, they can take from this weekend and improve as we go into the season is I think we really need to work on our small ball, our more not relying on the long ball, not necessarily meaning home runs, but just deep shots to center, left, whatever it may be, but figuring out ways to get quick, easy singles, doubles. That way we can advance runners and, not be in these super close game situations.
Yeah, a prime example of that is I can't remember if it was in this game or the game against Oklahoma State, but Ty Wilmsmeyer was trying to drop a bunt down, had 2 strikes on it. I mean, he had gotten 2 strikes on him. One of those was also off of a foul bunt, then fouled his 3rd strike bunt attempt off, which is an out, as you guys know. So poor performance there just on that one at bat for him. He did have a bunt for a single later on in this weekend, which was good to see him kind of bounce that back. But stuff like that you can't have happen, once you get to SEC play. If you've got a guy that you're trying to advance, you don't have any outs and you have somebody foul a bunt back to get an out with, basically no advancement, no positive anything on that play. That's a tough out right there. And you got to improve on those types of scenarios. And then to your point, sometimes it looks like we're trying to swing for the long ball on every at bat. Kendall Diggs, cough, cough. But they actually have done a pretty good job in moments getting those clutch base hits. We just got to get a little bit more consistency there. like you said, on being successful at small ball. And then when those home runs come, they're even more impactful because you've got 2 or 3 guys on base potentially. So I see a lot of good things coming, a couple of areas to improve on. But dang, game 1 was awesome, dude.
Yeah, very true. And then, they jumped over in game 2 versus Oklahoma State, another familiar foe that a few years ago we saw in a super regional that was full of fireworks itself.
Electric.
But this game, not as much scoring going on, but more of a pitching battle back and forth between these two teams and really showing the depth of the bullpens here. And, I think that's where Arkansas was able to come out and show the amount of arms they have. Arkansas fell in this game, unfortunately, 2-1 in 14 innings. So a late one for, anybody that stayed up to finish all of this game. Starting out, you got Brady Tiger, a guy that we had penciled in as a starter to begin with alongside Hagen Smith, that kind of third starter, your Sunday guys. That was the question mark going into the season. But Tiger came out and gave us another good 6 innings, 78 pitches. He had 3 hits, 2 walks, and 6 strikeouts on the day. And then kept us going through most of this game. But this is where our bullpen really kicked in, was after Tiger got pulled. You saw 5 additional arms being pitched in this game. Cody Frank, another guy that we were excited about his return this year after missing most of last season after injury early in the season. He went 1 2/3 inning with 29 pitches, had a walk and 1 strikeout, or 5 strikeouts. So you had Stone Hewlett that came in for another third of an inning, 3 pitches, 1 strikeout. Again, another one of those situational pitching when he was brought in. You had Jake Faraday can't come in again, another third of an inning, 20 pitches. He had 1 hit, 1 run, and 2 walks and 1 strikeout. So, he had the tying run hit off of him. And then you saw Gabe Geckel come out with an impressive 2 2/3 innings in a big situation where he got out of a bases loaded situation. So great work for the freshman, coming out, putting up 39 pitches, going only 1 walk and 6 strikeouts, So he came out in a big clutch situation and got out of a tough jam there. And then Colin Fisher finished off the game with 2 1/3 innings pitched, 39 pitches. He had 2 hits, 1 run, 1 walk, 6 strikeouts. So overall, a long game, filled with, like we said, a pitching duel here. And I think this game is one where like we mentioned before, is if we could have played our small ball a little bit better, we could have seen a victory here, especially earlier in the game. Hogs combined for 25 strikeouts in this game, which was a new program record. But on the flip side of that, Arkansas stranded 15 base runners. That is not great. They went from the plate 1 of 14 with runners in scoring position, and then 2 of 24 with runners on base. So when you start looking at that, that does not bode well if you're trying to win games and your pitchers are keeping you in this game. Your offense has got to step up in this situation.
Yeah, we couldn't get any timely hits in this game, and that happens from time to time. You saw it in a couple of games last year here and there. And the good thing about it is, obviously, it's early in the season. This is another big matchup where we really wanted to win this game. Obviously, some history between these two teams. Fantastic pitching. I mean, you can't ask for any more than that. It's setting a program record, 25 strikeouts. We talked about it before this season started, and we talked about it a little bit after the JMU series, that this year's team has some of the best pitching that we've had in a long time, top to bottom, between starters, relievers, and your closers. And man, I mean, they've really kind of shown that through these first 2 weekends of baseball. They've had a fantastic outing in almost every single game, even in the JMU series, even the loss. I thought we actually pitched well in most of those innings. We had like 2 innings that got away from us there. But overall, our starting pitching and our relieving has just been otherworldly so far. And that's one thing that you can really kind of build off of. To your point, going 1 for 14 with runners in scoring position, just no clutch hits. It's tough. That's a tough pill to swallow because we're normally a little bit better. Even in some of our areas where we don't do as well in small ball, we at least get a clutch home run, a clutch triple or double or something like that, to score a couple of guys, and only going 1 of 14 there. That really hurt us in this game. We had multiple opportunities to score and just couldn't. And it is a little bit of a testament to Oklahoma State. They're a very good team. They also have very good pitching. They've got pretty good fielders. I mean, this was a chess match of a game. You could really see it. The coaches were absolutely battling. And overall, I don't hate that we lost this game. It sucks to lose, but you were in a position to win this game pretty much the whole game, and that's all you can ask for from a baseball standpoint. You'll have these bad ones every now and then where you just can't squeak out that one hit that you need when you got a guy on second or something. So overall, flush this one and forget it. But a lot to remember as well, just from the pitching performances you got from pretty much everybody that came into this game.
Yeah. And then it's one of those things where, this Oklahoma State team, they're not going to be a bad team. They may have had a rough start to the season. They lost a lot from last year. And so you look at down the line, this isn't going to be reflected as a bad loss or anything. It's an early season loss to a team that most likely will be in the running to win the Big 12. And so, like you said, don't worry about this game. You got to move on. And, a couple of highs that you can take from this game is Jared Sprague had a great game in this one. He's starting to turn out to be a really good transfer that's come in from Richmond. One of those, Dave's really good about finding those key guys that may not be the most hyped up transfers in the portal, but knows that these are guys that can come in and contribute right away and be able to actually play on the SEC level. And you saw this, he had 3 of Arkansas's 8 hits, including a pair of doubles in this game. And another consistent throughout the first few games of the season is Diggs. He's had an RBI single in this game that scored Sprague, which was Arkansas's only run in this game. So, like you said, this was a super late game, but you had a game the next day and you kind of just had to forget about it and move on. So, you jumping into today's game, Arkansas versus Michigan, where Arkansas won this in a close fashion, 4-3, right in the bottom of the ninth. Kind of some key pitching that we talked about. Arkansas's key pitching came in clutch in this game, where Mason Molina got the start, had a decent outing last week. He had a good 3 innings last week, and in that 4th inning, things kind of went a little sideways for him. But he bounced back in this one. 5 innings pitched, 81 pitches, 1 walk, and then 10 strikeouts in this game. So on the season, he's up to 19 for himself after having 9 last week and 10 in this game. I think it just shows you the depth of Arkansas pitching, easily having, I feel like for sure, the best 1-2 punch with Hagan and Brady. But then you throw Mason Molina, if he can consistently come out and give you 9-10 strikeouts a game, that's going to be big for Arkansas, especially in SEC play. When you have a big 3 of this nature, that's going to be big.
It almost feels kind of like the Blaine Knight, Casey Murphy, Isaiah, can't remember his last name to save my life. Yeah, Isaiah Campbell when he was a freshman. It almost feels kind of like that year where you had almost like a 1-2, 2.5 ace in a sense. Isaiah was really coming on there towards the end of that year. He had a little bit of a rough start, but man, he everybody knows what he turned into. He came on towards the end of that year. Mason Molina is probably, obviously at a better spot getting out the gate because he's not a freshman. He's just kind of a fresh face to Arkansas. But man, I mean, if the starting pitching keeps this up where you're getting 5, 6, 7 innings out of them, games 1, 2, and 3, it gives the pitching staff, coaching wise, a lot to work with on where they want to pitch their relievers and their closers. They don't have to get a whole lot out of them, just so you can be a little bit more liberal on who you throw out there. And if they start to lose it after 6 pitches, it don't matter. Pull them right out of there. You got 7 other guys waiting behind them that could be hot that night. So it's very encouraging to see the way this team is shaping up to kind of have that serious 1, 2, 3 punch. Like I said, it really kind of gives me those Casey Murphy, Blaine Knight, Isaiah Campbell vibes as far as your starting rotation goes. So I've been excited so far this year.
Yeah, like 100%. It makes Matt Hobbs, Dave Van Horn's job a lot easier when instead of being like, well, this guy pitched the other night, who do I got to go to now? If you get, like you said, 5 to 6 innings out of each starter, you're looking at your pitching sheet being like, well, I've got a handful of guys that have very few pitches on their arms, if any, because my starters were able to go so long. And you saw in this game, you only used 2 additional guys after 5 the night before. You had Will McIntyre come back in for another call from the bullpen, going 3 innings, 35 pitches. He had 2 hits, 1 run, and 1 walk. And then Cody Frank comes in and closes things out with 1 inning pitched, 32 pitches, 3 hits, 2 runs, 1 strikeout. So Michigan fought their way back in this one, scoring a run in the middle of the game. And then right here in the bottom of the ninth, they loaded the bases up, like we said, on the edge of our seats with a very close game that probably shouldn't have been as close. But, Arkansas finds a way to squeak it out there with Cody Frank in the end. In this game, another, like we talked about last game, Sprague went 2 for 4 at the plate in this one with an RBI, and then Ben McLaughlin went 2 for 5 at the plate with 1 RBI. So, guys are slowly figuring themselves out, but hopefully, as we continue before conference play with these midweek games and these few series before SEC play starts, more of these guys can really find their bat. Another guy that Arkansas, if you remember Caleb Cali from last year is having a similar type start as him, Vahiva Aloy is a guy that we know he's got a big bat, but I think he's just really struggling to play right now and really trying to force things, swing at pitches he shouldn't be. But, I think you let him get his feet under him, give him a few more series. I think he'll really find himself. And all it takes is one big hit or, one good game to get a guy rolling. And then, he's not going to look back.
Yeah, I agree with that. Now, and it's going to come. He had too good of a kind of an early spring and a lot of the scrimmages for it to not start to break through. I think he's just kind of got a little bit of the big game jitters in a sense this early season. It's going to come. But one thing I want to hit on this Michigan game before we move on, we did have a 4-1 lead or 4-2 lead, I believe it was actually going into the bottom of the ninth. And we had two, I don't know if they were scored as errors, but they were, in my mind, errors off of some hard ground balls in the infield. Peyton Holt had one that would have been the final out. And then Spraglot also had one on an errant throw. He fielded the ball well, but had an errant throw to Ben McLaughlin at first. That basically let Michigan kind of keep chipping away. They scored a couple of runs. And then we weren't able to get the final out when we should have. That made it a little bit of a scarier moment there at the end. Thankfully, I was glad that they let Cody Frank stay in the game and actually get this one out. It looked like he was starting to lose it, but it wasn't all his fault. He was getting some good ground balls. The guys just behind him weren't cleaning it up quite like they should have. But he got a good pop out at the end of the game to close it out. But that's one thing that we're going to have to clean up as well before you get to conference play. When you have those opportunities to close a game out and you have a couple of back-to-back errors that let a team hang around. Obviously, this didn't cost us the game, but it could have very, very easily. Would have had kind of similar feelings to the whole, messed up foul ball we alluded to earlier in that Oregon State series from the championship series back in 2018. That was a misplayed ball that really would have won us the game. And then everybody knows how that next extra inning and the next game went. So definitely can't let those mistakes keep happening. Got to clean that up a little bit and try to limit those mistakes because those can cost you games, especially when they happen late in a game like this. For example, this was bottom of the ninth and you have a couple of errors. That's a recipe for disaster, but glad we got to avoid that and glad they let Cody Frank stay in there and actually finish this game out.
Yeah, that's true. I know in the broadcast they were talking about at one point Gage Wood was warming up, but he had sat down and they said this is Cody Frank's game to finish, and he was able to do that. But to your point with those fielding errors, that's one thing that a Dave Van Horn coach team is not going to put up with, and that's going to be an easy way to put your starting spot into question. I feel like is if you are consistently having issues. Not saying anybody's spot's in jeopardy, but if we don't get some of these issues cleaned up, that's when you might put some question marks into Coach Van Horn's mind of, do I need to, stick somebody else in to see if we can have cleaner fielding? Because if you look in the past few seasons, Arkansas has been one of those teams that has a high 90 percentile fielding percentage throughout the season. And yes, it is early in the season. Guys are knocking some rust off, things of that nature, and actually playing against other competition rather than themselves in scrimmages and whatnot. But I think with a Dave Van Horn coach team, I see this to improve pretty quickly, and that he's not going to have these issues continue to plague the team for very long.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think it's one of those things where it is, you sometimes see a little bit of situational subbing and things of that nature. Or, in these 3-game series, there's a lot of fresh faces on the field against Michigan. I know one of the transfers from Missouri, I can't think of his name right now. He played right field for Diggs, let Diggs DH.
Lovich.
Yeah, Lovich. So this was his first game to play, and there was a couple of others. I know Nolan Souza got to start at second base this game until I think he got pulled in the 7th or 8th inning just to put Holt in, probably to try to see if we get a little bit extra offense from Holt.
You saw Edmondson at first.
Yep.
The start.
Yep. So, a few fresh faces here and there, which that's no big deal. I think that was a little bit of just trying to figure out who could have some hotter bats due to the lack of offense from the Oklahoma State game. But you'll see that throughout the year, and I think that's something that Dave doesn't have a problem doing is trying to sub, maybe some offense for defense here and there. Obviously, Sprague's been swinging a hot bat, but if you have a couple errors at third, game in and game out, your bat's hot, but we might figure out a way to make you DH and roll somebody else out at third. Or, there's a lot of options there, and we've got a deep enough team, which it's nice to be able to work around some of those things if you have to. I'd like to see Sprague clean a little bit of that up because he's fun to watch play. He's made some good plays at third. Outside of the couple of errors, he's actually been a pretty good third baseman for us so far. But it'll be interesting to see kind of once we get a little bit closer to conference play where you have a little bit more of the consistency on fielding come from, and that very likely will be where most of your starters, your Friday night starters come from. Guys that got big bats may get a little extra playing time here and there, but they can work those guys in DH roles more often than not. So I'm kind of curious to see where the final tally where this team's going to kind of really shape up on the Friday and Saturday games. You might see a little bit of difference on the Sundays, obviously, and obviously the midweeks, but those will be where I'm really curious to see the main lineup.
Yeah, that's true. I think we'll see an ever-changing lineup, and you might see it get more solidified during SEC play, and then like you said, those extra guys will get that playing time, those midweek games where it's more or less their turn to earn the shot or show what they can do. And so it'll be interesting as we develop. Arkansas comes back home and we'll take on Grambling on Tuesday of this week before having another series next weekend. And so they're going to come back, probably look at some film and go from there and keep improving. But, I think Arkansas is going to be carried at least by its pitching so far this season. And then if we can get some hot bats going, then I think this is going to be a very scary Arkansas team.
Yeah, I think so too. I mean, realistically, going 2-for-1 in this weekend, kind of tournament style series, you would like to go 3-0, but against the competition that was down there, I mean, I was expecting us to drop a game. I was expecting it to probably be the Oregon State team if we were going to lose one. That was a nice win to pick up right there. But Michigan and Oklahoma State, neither one of those teams are bad at all. They've got some good pitching. I know Michigan had to replace their big ace from last year, so they have a little bit less pitching than I think they used to, but still good teams. Especially this early in the year, you're facing some strong competition. So you really do get a good gauge on where you're at. And I think our whole bullpen and our starting pitchers really kind of stepped up to that level, I guess you could put it that way, and really performed well all weekend long. Going two out of 3 is pretty solid and about all you can ask for in that situation. So overall, a great road trip, successful weekend. I know a lot of the players had fun. They were talking to some of the managers of Globe Life, and they really try to put on a fun weekend for the players down there. It's almost kind of like a football bowl game or something where there's constant activities for the players to be involved in outside of the games, and they put them up in nice hotels, and they're constantly being fed well, and all the things that make it a really fun road trip. So it's definitely a good thing, I think, for Arkansas baseball to go to these types of early season series and things, and be a lot of fun for the players and good experience for everyone involved.
Yeah, that's true. And so, Arkansas baseball wasn't the only team that had their own pre-conference tournament per se. You had your Arkansas softball team. The girls from Bogle have the Razorback Invitational this weekend that was hosted here. You had a combination of teams of Illinois State, UT Arlington, and Wichita State participating. And Arkansas only lost one game in this entire weekend, which is, to be expected. With the state of this program, you don't see very many losses coming from this team. And Arkansas got it started on Friday as they took on Illinois State and won that matchup 7-0. Pitching in this game, you had Reese Berlin, 4 innings, 3 hits, 2 walks, 1 strikeout. Nikki McGaffin came in on relief for 1 inning, 1 hit, 1 strikeout. Morgan Leanstock came in to clean things up. 2 innings, 1 hit, 1 walk, 2 strikeouts. So Arkansas scored at 7 runs of this game in the first 3 innings. And Ryland Hedgecock, another one of those names we talked about that you're going to hear pretty frequently, finished this game 2 of 2 with an RBI and a walk. You had Reagan Johnson, another one of those big names. They went 2 for 4 scoring a run. And Hannah Gamble, the BB Bomber, as she is nicknamed, had a 3-run home run in the first as well. So, nothing unexpected here. Another good game. Arkansas coming out, taking care of business, getting a win early in the first day of this Razorback Invitational. 3 names that we expected to hear a lot this season.
Yeah, no doubt about it. I mean, this offense could have probably exploded for a few more runs in this game even, but all in all, really solid starting to the weekend. It was a great way to kind of propel things. Overall, they had a great weekend, like you said. And those names, Hedgecock, Reagan Johnson, Hannah Gamble, Kylie Halverson, she's another one. I mean, you'll hear them week in and week out. They are phenomenal hitters. They have great patience at the plate. And then if any pitcher makes a mistake, they are all over those balls and more often than not hit those suckers out of the park. They're really, really good at, capitalizing on other pitching's mistakes. That's one thing I've noticed the most about watching them is they don't let any of those mistake pitches get by them very often. So that's been fun to see. And really, this team has so much explosive firepower. The offense is going to come in bunches, and they back it up with a lot of good pitching too. And we'll kind of cover some of that throughout the rest of this weekend. But this team they're pretty special.
I was about to say, if I'm a pitcher with those hitters in my lineup, I'm going to be pretty comfortable.
You feel comfortable. Yep.
And as we jump into day 2 on Saturday, Arkansas took on UT Arlington. They got the win there 9-0 in 6 innings. So a run rule game, something that we might see frequent this year by this Arkansas team. Hannah Kamenzen got the start in this one, going 5 innings, 5 hits, 1 walk, 5 strikeouts. She was relieved by Nikki McGaffin that went 1 inning with 1 hit. Like we just mentioned, you mentioned it, Kylie Halverson in this game, 2 solo home runs herself. Ryland Hedgecock finished 2 for 4 with a home run, 2 RBIs, 2 runs scored. Hannah Kamenzen also, she not only can pitch, but she can also turn right around and go to the plate, and she went 2 for 2 with 2 RBIs as well. So, you got a pitcher that can turn around and come out and swing a bat. It's just another weapon for this Arkansas team to come out and showcase what it can do. We'll get down into some numbers in a little bit in one of the games that happened yesterday in one Saturday. But big things with Arkansas. They put up a lot of runs, but, not another surprise here in this game.
No, not at all. And it was another good game to get a shutout in. That's a testament to how solid our pitching is and how good the defense is behind the pitching. Not a lot of mistakes were made in a lot of our fielding. And that's a good thing to see early in the season, that you're already performing kind of how you should be. So a lot of things to grow off of on some of these early games. Obviously, the competition level is a little bit lower, but you still have to come out there and perform and execute to get these big wins like this, and they're doing just that. So that gives me high hopes for the way that conference play is going to go. Like I said, this team's they got a lot of talent, and they're going to be pretty special.
Yeah. And then we'll jump into the second matchup of Friday night. That first Illinois State game was actually on Thursday. So this doubleheader on Friday, they took on Wichita State in the second, their doubleheader here, where they unfortunately fell in this game 3-1. This was a game where, just come out, didn't have the best outing. You had Robin Herring get the start in the circle in this one, 3 2/3 innings, 4 hits, 2 runs, 5 walks, and 3 strikeouts. So not necessarily her best outing of the season so far. You had Morgan Leanstock coming in relief for 3 1/3. 2 hits, 1 run, 1 walk, 5 strikeouts to close out the game. Just a tough loss here. Reagan Johnson went 2 for 4 in this game, scoring Arkansas's lone run. But there's not much else to go off of in this game where, bats just weren't there this game, and that's going to happen from time to time. But I think as the season goes and you get more innings under you more games, you're not going to see this as often.
Yeah, and even if you do, as long as you win series, that's the main thing. Like we said in baseball, softball, same way. It's just every once in a while, sometimes the magic doesn't happen where you get the clutch, timely hits like you are used to or kind of accustomed to. That was kind of the case in this game. Realistically, I thought our pitching did good enough to get the win, only allowing 3 runs. We just couldn't get it going on the offensive side of things. Had 8 strikeouts combined in here, which isn't terrible at all. So pitching still not horrible in this game, just not enough on the bats to kind of get us over the hump.
Yeah. And so as we roll into the Saturday matchups where Arkansas took on Illinois State once again, won the game 7-0 again. Robin Heron, this is a game where we talked about Arkansas, both diamonds set out some big career numbers here. Well, this was one. Robin Heron came out 7 innings pitched, 11 strikeouts. She pitched a complete game in this one, which is Arkansas' second in program history. So, big outing for her. We talked about last week, said, she's developing into what could be Arkansas's one of their key pitchers and big aces this year. She put that on full display in this game, coming out, taking care of business, 11 strikeouts, like we said, picks up that complete game, second program history with help from Rylan Hedgecock going 2 for 3, scoring a run. Bree Ellis 1 for 3, scoring 2 runs. So, with, like we said, that offense helping you out, being a pitcher on this pitching staff is going to be easy work for you.
Yeah, did this end up being a perfect game?
Yes.
I thought it did, yeah, which is pretty wild. That's hard to do, even in softball, like an actual, not just a complete game, but a perfect game where no walks, no hits, nothing. That's a rare occurrence, and I actually do believe that made like ESPN highlights. That this was talked about a good bit on SportsCenter, because that's a rare occurrence. I mean, that's pretty impressive. Like you said, she had a career day. I mean, it was an awesome weekend for Razorback pitching, baseball and softball both. So a lot of cool things going on, a lot of hype around both of these programs, just due to a couple of specific players, Hagen Smith and Robin Heron, prime examples. Obviously, a great game overall, getting another shutout. That's fun to see. We had several shutouts this weekend. So this softball team, seriously, they've got it on both sides, the plate and in the circle. So I can't say enough about Robin Heron, though, dude. That is really, really crazy, and something that I think she'll be able to maybe try to repeat later on in the year. You never know. She is a serious talent, and it looks like, to me, she's made an incredible leap, even from last year. She was very, very good last year as a freshman. The development that I'm seeing, everybody else is seeing, all the reporters are talking about that she's made from last year into this year, it's otherworldly. I mean, she is a special, special pitcher.
Yeah, when you get the chance to play behind and learn from Janice Dells,
That helps.
Great one, that helps a lot. And like you said, great outing so far, and I wouldn't be surprised to see more big things from her as this season goes. But I can't say it enough. If you get the chance, go check out this Arkansas softball team. They are fantastic things that it's hard to contradict what Courtney Deifel is doing. And the big thing that here you see, the fan attendance this weekend, I think another record was set this weekend, with the tournaments going on. I was at the game on Friday evening, yesterday and today, and ballpark was pretty packed. Not only the reserve seating section, but even the Bolga berm, basically your hog pen of the softball world. And it was a great day for softball today. The weather was perfect, but you look at yesterday, Robin Heron comes out and throws a perfect game in game one. Turns right around versus Wichita State, the team that beat them the day before. Came out, didn't let that happen again. They released some offense in this game, and this is what we can expect from time to time from this team. They came out and got this win 15-4 in 5 innings, where they had a 13 scoring third inning. And pitching in this game, not much work for them to do. Is the offense kept things in check. Morgan Leanstock got the start in the circle this week, 3 2/3 innings, 3 hits, 3 runs, 3 walks, 5 strikeouts, and then Hannah Camden came in to clean up, 1 1/3 inning, 2 hits, 1 run, 2 walks. But this game, this is what we know this offense can do. If you're the opposing team and your pitching's not on, you can expect a game like this, because there's too many good hitters on this team that can come in and make you pay for mistakes like that. And there's a lot of numbers to run through here with players that were able to contribute in this game. If you just run through the box score, you had Reagan Johnson going 1 of 4 with 2 runs scored. Bree Ellis 1 of 3 with a 1 run score, batting in 2 RBI. So you can the list goes on. Kennedy Miller, the freshman catcher, 2 of 3 with 2 runs. Callie Howson, 2 of 3 with 2 runs. Like I said, that
everybody got involved.
Everybody got a chance to get a piece in this one.
Yeah, you can't ask for a better game, man, especially to kind of bounce back and get a little bit of revenge for the loss the previous day. So like we've said, you have games where you don't score well, and then you have games where you absolutely pop off and everybody just rakes. So this was a fun game, high scoring, quick game, only going 5 innings. So getting that nice early run rule kind of saved a little bit of the pitching staff. But all in all, man, you can't beat that type of bounce back against an opponent that got you earlier in the week.
Yeah, very true. And they turned things around today as they took on UT Arlington for just one game today. And, those bats continue to stay hot from that previous game where they won this game 10-0 in 5 innings. So another quick, run rule game here. Reese Berlin got the start in this one, throwing all 5 innings, 2 hits, 1 walk, 3 strikeouts. This is another where you see several people get involved. You had the big one, Carly Ratcliffe, a pinch hitter for Arkansas. Got her first Bogle bomb of her career in this one. Big there. You saw Bree Ellis scoring a run. Reagan Johnson scoring a run, going 2 for 2. Nia Carter. Several pieces of this game that is going to continue to develop and be a strong point for this Arkansas team as they go through the rest of the season and get ready for SEC play.
Yeah, all in all, man, you can't beat this type of performance, especially with it being kind of an at-home little round-robin style tournament, whatever you want to call it. Only dropping one game, and it was a fairly close game where it just didn't seem like things were clicking on the offense. And then pretty much every other game that we played was a run rule or close, or a shutout, or something along those lines. That is exactly what you want out of a team that's kind of a top 25. Got real high aspirations. They're going to be upper echelon of the SEC, I think, this year. This is what you want to see when you're playing some of these non-conference teams, that you're winning, and you're winning big more often than not. That's really all you can ask for. Everybody played well. Everybody stepped up when they needed to. There was clutch hits. There was incredibly clutch pitching, So all in all, this team is shaping up to be kind of what we expected them to be preseason. And so it's like you said, I think it's going to be one of those things where everybody's getting involved. Everybody's on board from a fan's perspective. There's going to be records set this year, and for good reason with how good this team is. Get out there, get you some tickets, watch them when you can, especially when they're home. And I don't think you'll be disappointed with the product that's on the field. This is a very talented softball team that we've got this year.
Very true. And you'll get plenty of chances. Next 2 weekends, we have 2 more tournaments that we're hosting coming up. This next upcoming weekend, you got the Whoopee Classic, and then the following weekend, you will have the Razorback Rumble tournament. So plenty of opportunities to go out there and catch Arkansas softball. You won't be disappointed. And like you said, that product that's being put on the field by Coach Stifel is pretty incredible, and it's going to be fun to watch. And before we wrap up here, another big accomplishment this weekend came on the hardwood as Arkansas took on Missouri on Saturday, and one Khalif Battle had himself a career day coming out, and it was like he couldn't miss. Came out, scored 42 points in Arkansas's victory over Missouri. So Arkansas picking up 2 straight here with a little bit of momentum going. If you can have Khalif Battle come out and really, we saw the first glimpses of what we saw preseason before conference play of what we expected. He came out early in the season, putting up 20-plus points several times, but kind of disappeared a little bit down the lineup and down the depth chart a little bit as we got into conference play. But then you see here, with the struggles we've been having, he really seized and picked up an opportunity and came out here and just had a monstrous game where everything he put up seemed to be going in, and he was 1 point away from tying Todd Day's all-time scoring single game record, which was scored against LSU and Shaquille O'Neal back in the day.
Yeah, it was unexpected, but very needed, especially because, Tremont Mark had a little bit of a struggle in this game. Mitchell had a slow start, didn't score as much as he had been. I mean, granted, I think Missouri was trying to kind of scheme those guys out of the picture a little bit. So there was a lot of I think Missouri was trying to keep us from scoring 56 points in the paint on them again, like we had in the previous matchup. So there wasn't a lot of good interior looks. They were kind of locking us down from getting inside very well until Battle hit a couple of threes, started opening things up, and then he started slashing, and he was, making everything around the rim, getting fouled, 4-point plays, 3-point plays. I mean, it was just, it's like everything was going in. It was crazy. I haven't seen an explosion like that, from basketball. I mean, I can't even remember. Yeah, there's
I think
probably
the
not
the
one.
next biggest game was probably Mason Jones back in Muss's first season that had a 40-point game or two here or there.
Yeah, I think that's right. And then, I mean, it was kind of JD Note-esque in a sense where he would have one of those games where like everything would go in and he'd drop a 30 bomb on somebody. Felt like that. Some games battle's not on, and he only scores 5 points, and that's okay. But then some games, if he's on like this, you just keep feeding him the rock. It was a very fun game to watch. Easy to root for him in this one. I mean, it was special. I mean, that's really all you can say about it. It was a very special performance. Couldn't happen to a better guy. I mean, he's very confident, and it's fun to watch him kind of build off that confidence when the shots are falling. Man, it's like he knew that he was going to make every shot he was throwing up. It was cool to see.
Very true. I was able to get out to this game, and it's like as the game goes, he quietly had a middle of the game creeping up, and then in that second half, you look up, oh, he's got 22 points. Oh, he's up to 29. And then that's when he kind of just took over. He had a couple of heat check threes that, just nothing but net came in. He actually shot 60% from 3-point range, making 6 out of 10. So it was a big day there for him. And I think he had one of a top headline quote as, post game, he said, he's just a shooter and that's what he's going to do. And the president of the United States could tell him to stop shooting and that he's not going to stop shooting because that's just how he plays. So a great quote from him, but you like to see that confidence regained from, I think he struggled a little bit into conference play with some of that confidence issues and scoring issues. Unfortunately, it's like we said in the show last week, this is great and everything, such a great game, not taking away what he did. But it almost feels like all of these great things that are happening is coming a little too late into the season, where if he could have been doing this, scoring 20, 22, 25 points a game in SEC play, things might have been a little different for this team. But you got to love the momentum he's built in here, and maybe he's one of those guys must talks into coming back next year. He maybe works on some defensive things next year. That's where he kind of really struggled and kind of probably where some of his playing time got cut is you weren't playing on defense, so you're not going to get a ton of minutes. But if he can, with the development we saw from Graham this year, if somebody like Jalen Graham can do that, if you can get Khalif Battle back near an offseason under Muss, I think you can come out and have a big year next year.
Yeah, I think so too. And I think one thing that should kind of calm people down maybe a little bit. Obviously, it might be a little too late, and it's going to take us potentially, winning like the SEC tournament to even make it into the NCAA tournament. I think there was still some like random ways that we could get a bid, even if we didn't win the SEC tournament, but it would take a lot of things happening, and probably isn't likely. So all in all, it is good to see, just from a fan's perspective, the effort that the guys are showing in some of these games, even with the year that we've had, the effort that the coaches are putting in. Muss is still as fired up as ever on the sidelines if we're having bad play, if there's poor calls, things like that. He's still in it and engaged, and there's not any quit in this team at all, even with the way this year's gone. And I think that's a testament to, the culture, the coaching, obviously, and then the player mentality. There's been some lack of effort earlier in the year, and it seems like they've kind of finally figured out a little bit of the effort side of things. It's resulted in some close losses and some good wins the last 5-6 games. And that's about all you can ask for, especially after the way this season started, for them to just keep battling, keep fighting, keep making the state proud. Really is a lot of it. And then I think that should set a lot of people's mind at ease as far as the job that Musselman's trying to do, even in, a somewhat down year, what he's still trying to do this late in the season, the way he's still trying to coach these guys, the effort and the intensity that he brings. I think that should bring maybe a little bit of peace of mind to some fans' heads that, look, Muss isn't going anywhere. This is still his place to coach. This is still where he wants to be. This is still the team that he's wanting to, get on the court week in and week out. I'm seeing, a little bit of that kind of comfortability. I really don't know how to put it into words, but it gives me a little bit more peace of mind that, we're not going to end the year with such a sour taste in everyone's mouth, maybe. And I think that bodes well as far as, kind of keeping the staff where we want them and things of that nature. So I don't want to get too far down the road and have to eat crow later on in the year if somebody does end up leaving. I'd hate to see that, but I think the effort and the everything you're seeing from the players and coaches alike is a good thing to see this late in the year with the way the season's gone. It's definitely kind of put my mind at ease in a sense.
That's true. And so as we're closing out here, this is our first debut episode of the Razorback Recap Arlington edition, as we recap everything going on down in Arlington in the Kubota Classic there and the Razorback Invitational, even some basketball highlights. So, feel free to drop some comments below. Let us know what you want to hear, things you want to see as we start. Our goal is to do this weekly. We'll come at you, highlight what happened over the weekend, and then we'll be back with our regular episodes later on in the week. So, be on the lookout for that. Drop comments, like this video below, and we'll see you back on our regular episode on Thursday of this week.